उसको
आज
सेन्ट्रिफिकेसन
भात
कहाँ स्टार्ट कसरी गर्ने यो चाहिँ के हो Hello, it's Pinky Shaha, all the way from Amrit Science Campus. Today I'm going to discuss on the topic centrifugation. छ भएन यस्तो डिस्टर्ब हुन्छ यो ढोका बन्द गर यो च्याट बन्द गर आवाज
त्यही पनि त्यति टाढाको
आउँछ 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 आवाज आउँछ यो बन्द गरेपछि झन् जोड आवाज आउँछ कि बन्द गर्न ढोका सबै आवाज गइहाल्छ कि उता फेरि टुकुर लाउँदा त्यो त त झ्याल र उसको नगर नि ट्याङ ट्याङ डोन्ट डु Hello, it's Pinky Shah from Amrit Science Campus. Today I am going to discuss on the topic centrifugation. So before entering into the title centrifugation, let's know what is a normal phenomenon or process of separating particles from any type of mixture. Normally what happens in our daily life, such as for example, suppose we have a mixture of sand and water, or say soil and water. Now if we want to separate soil or sand from the mixture, then what we do is we put the mixture in a beaker and let the beaker rest for a while, and finally after an hour or after half an hour or after few minutes, the sand particles or soil particles sediment or settle down, and finally either we decant the topmost water from the mixer and separate soil or sand, or we use the process of filtration to separate sand or soil from the mixture. So this is how we do in our daily life, and this is fit actually for those particles which are heavier, which are lighter, to separate for the mixture. But what about if the particles are too small in size, too lighter, but we still want to separate such particles from the solution or any type of mixture? So for the separation of the lightest particles or the particles of any size, there is a special procedure or process called centrifugation. Centrifugation is the process of separating particles of different sizes to the lightest through the process of spinning. In the process of centrifugation, we use a machine called centrifuge to separate the particles of different size. The process of centrifugation is being used in different places like diagnostic labs to separate proteins from urine and blood. It is also used in the dairies and in our daily life to separate butter from the milk. So these are the uses or the places where we use centrifugation process. So the next word I used was centrifuge. Centrifuge is nothing, it's a machine in which the process centrifugation is carried out. So after this, we are now going to discuss about the basic principles of sedimentation. Pratik, stop it. Don't do that, please. Don't do that. So the basic principles of sedimentation. Here we will discuss how the different particles will settle down or precipitate down in the mixture, and what are the factors on which the sedimentation process depends upon. So in any mixture, when the centrifugation process is going on, carried out in the sample, the sedimentation process of these particles mostly depend upon the shape, size, density, viscosity of the medium, and the motor speed. But however, basically, the sedimentation depends mainly in the three things: shape, size, and density of the molecules. The next thing to be noted for higher sedimentation is there must be the density difference of the particles of the sample which we are going to separate and the density of the particles of the medium. So when the density of the particles which we want to separate is higher than the density of the particles of the medium, then the sedimentation process goes on fast. But when there is no difference of the density of the particles of the sample and medium itself, then there is no sedimentation. The particles of the sample stay steady in the medium. The next thing to be noted is that when the particles in the test tube are in the process of centrifugation, the particles which we want to separate from the medium or mixture, they also face or experience face the opposing force called the force of friction or frictional force. It is a force that is developed in between the particles of the medium and the particles which we want to separate. So higher the frictional force, lower will be the sedimentation. Lesser the frictional force, higher will be the sedimentation. So frictional force also depends upon the size of the particle. Larger the size of the particle which we want to separate, larger will be the friction. Smaller the size of the particle which we want to separate, smaller will be the friction. So we must note these things in our mind, and in our practical classes when we are undergoing the process of centrifugation or sedimentation. Finally, at last but not the least, I would like to say that centrifugation is the fastest technology where the process of sedimentation is fastened, or uh, the process of sedimentation is done at rapid speed at high energy level through two forces, through the combination of two forces. One is the spinning, or we can say the rotational force, and the other is the gravitational force, which is acting downward. With the combination of these two forces, a centrifugal force is developed or set up in the centrifuge machine that helps the lightest particles to settle down in a short period of time. So this is all about the process of centrifugation, the machine used in the process of centrifugation, and the basic principles that work out during the process of sedimentation of particles in the process of centrifugation. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a nice time. Bye.